चलो रिकॉर्डिंग ऑन है। चलिए रविंद्र को बिगिन।
Hare Krishna, Canto 3, the name of this canto is the status quo, and chapter 1 is questions by Vidura. So, a connection between this chapter and the earlier canto with this canto. So, Suta Goswami was narrating to Sangat Rishi about Sarga, or the primary creation of this material world, which was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami in chapter 10 of second canto. After hearing this, Sanukada Rishi remembered about Mahatma Vidura, which is Suta Goswami had previously informed him how Vidura left home in chapter 13 of first canto. Oh, but at that time, that chapter, only the description of Viduraji after his return from pilgrimage is given. So Sanukada Rishi inquired from Suta Goswami in second canto, chapter 10, 48, which was presented by Ramaya Mataji, about the transcendental talks between Mahatma Vidura and Maitreya Rishi by asking the following three questions, which is mentioned in second canto, chapter 10, verse number 49 to 50. So the three questions are the reasons for Mahatma Vidura's giving of the connection of his family members, which is given in verse number 15 to 17 in this chapter, and why he again comes home. It was discussed in first canto, chapter 13, verse number 18, to instruct Dhritarashtra. And the third question was the actions of Vidura while he was in the places of pilgrimage. So all these three questions are narrated in this chapter. Answers are narrated in this chapter. So the first two cantos are a conversation between Suta Goswami and the sages assembled under the leadership of Sanukada Rishi. And then we see the conversation between the Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. Here from this third canto, we see the conversation in reference to Maitreya Rishi and Vidura Mahatma. So sections of this chapter are verse number 1 to 5, questions by King Parikshit to Sukadeva Goswami, 6 to 16, Mahatma Vidura left home, 17 to 23, his travel to the holy places, 24 to 40, Mahatma Vidura meet Uddhava and asking about the welfare of Krishna, his sons, his queens, and all about his lineage, also asking about the Pandavas. And 41 to 44, Mahatma Vidura laments for Dhritarashtra and explains about Supreme Lord Krishna's appearance for his unallied devotees. In section 1, questions by King Parikshit to Sukadeva Goswami. So in first verse here, Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, after renouncing his prosperous home and entering the forest, King Vidura, the great devotee, asked this question of his grace Maitreya Rishi. So the questions that asked by Maharaj Parikshit before the second canto, the same question asked by Narad Muni to Brahmaji. Now Sukadeva Goswami presents the Maitreya and Vidura Samvad. Then what else is there in second verse? What else is there to say about the residential house of Pandavas? Sri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister. He used to enter the house as if it were his own, and he did not take any care of Duryodhana's house. So in purport, Prabhupada explaining about the anything which satisfy the senses of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is also Sri Krishna. So he is speaking about the Achintya Bhedabhed Tattva. So we see the Dhamma is the expansion of the Supreme Lord, and it is also energy of the Lord. When the energy of the Lord is in the service of the Lord, it is utilized to its best benefit. So it is completely spiritual. So the spiritual principle is Shakti Mater Abheda. There is no difference between the energy and energetic. The Lord himself, the energetic absolute truth, and whereas his devotees, his eternal associates, are his energies. The energy and energetic are fundamentally one, but since their functions are differently exhibited, they are simultaneously different also. That is why we say Nam, Rupa, Dham, Leela, and Parikar is Abheda, and the Bheda difference is the unique distinct functions, appearance, and specific rule his place is his pastime. So Srila Prabhupada here glorifying in this verse also, Srila Prabhupada glorifying Mahatma Vidura for his detachment towards family position and family and position, etc. for transcendental knowledge. If you we here learn that if you want to gain the spiritual advancement, then it is the most important quality is detachment. And then as soon as Sukadeva Goswami speaking, then Maharaj Parikshit is so sharp that, and he is so alert, he is so intelligent, immediately ask the question by not leaving this, and he deep into dive and asking the question about asked by Sukadeva Goswami, asked to Sukadeva Goswami, where and when did the meeting and discussion take place between Saint Vidura and His Grace Maitreya Muni? Kindly oblige, my Lord, and describe this to us. So here is one important principle is that unless until the hearer is inquisitive, the speaker cannot do much. Unless and until there is a receiver, how can there be transmission? So it is the eagerness and inquisitiveness of Maharaj Parikshit, so that we have got this voluminous Srimad Bhagavatam. In verse 4, here the quality of Vidura is explained, and the here Vidura is Amalatmana. Amala means who is pure, and Atmana means soul. That means there is no contamination. His heart is very pure, and he is pure devotee. So quality of a pure devotee is Tasmin Variyasi Prasna. The question that saintly person who have asked is very, very meaningful and purposeful on the highest level and approved by the learned circles. So when we ask the question, the speaker can know our understanding and our consciousness. One can ask when the conception has formed or framed. So by asking questions, we have cleared our false conception, and the right conception will be captured. So Srila Prabhupada also explained in this verse number 4 about karma and karma yoga. So here Prabhupada also explain the Tasmat Gurum Prapadyante Jigyansu Sreyam Uttamam. So according to Srimad Bhagavatam, one is advised to approach a bona fide spiritual master. When one is actually inclined to question from an elevated level of spiritual understanding. So if the disciple has a doubt about the value of Krishna consciousness, so he can ask to the bona fide spiritual master. And Prabhupada also mentioned that unless until one is Sabda Pare Sa Prabhupada mentioned that if he has clear realization of the scriptures and he is able to convince others, then only he can take the position of the spiritual master. And the quality of hearer is actual disciple is one who is serious seeker for real happiness is only approach a bona fide spiritual master. And verse number 5, the dialogue is happening here. What Suta Goswami has
the
heard
verse?
from.
1 minute. 1 second. Very good. You gave so much of rationale. What is that verse?
कौन सा प्रभु जी?
One who is really seeking spiritual happiness. What is the verse?
तस्मात् गुरु प्रबध्यन्ते जिज्ञासुं श्रेयम् उत्तमम्.
Yeah, you should speak this. Yeah, then it becomes more authoritative. Continue.
Yes, Prabhu. In verse number 5, the dialogue is happening here. What Suta Goswami has heard from Sukadeva Goswami, that is translating and narrating to the sages assembled in the assembled. So he is saying that Sukadeva Goswami was pleased with the king Parikshit because of his questions being asked to him. So it is advised everyone that so hearing should be always done with attention. In section 2, 6 to 16, Mahatma Vidura left home. In verse 6, purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions, it is not the ability based on one's bodily strength. So one may not be having the bodily support, but still that is not an impediment. So Prabhupada says that the physical lack of sight does not bar one from the spiritual progress. But here the blind, when one is blind spiritually, he speaks about Dhritarashtra, even though physically fit, that blindness is dangerously detrimental to the progressive path of human life. In verse 7, one very principle is given by Srila Prabhupada that in this verse, Dhritarashtra shows of his attachment, and with attachment, he shows how he was completely blind. So that is the reason in verse it was discussed in class that verse number Bhagavad Gita 1.1 is given to Dhritarashtra. So this principle is very important, that why Krishna allowed the first verse to Bhagavad Gita first verse to be spoken by Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra's vision was covered and he was blind, but attachment also made him deep. Sanjay in fact told him, we will all die, and there is no possibility for your impious sons to win over the virtuous Pandavas. But because of his attachment, he did not accept the advice of Sanjay. He never accepted the advice of Mahatma Vidur, because his nature was nature of material attachment, very dangerous. If we have material attachment, so it is advised that anyone in this material world, that material attachment pushes us to blind and also be deaf. So, as the case of Dhritarashtra,
And also blind and
blind and deaf,
deaf.
deaf.
Deaf. Deaf. Yeah, not only he does not see, he cannot hear also. Okay, good.
In verse 8, the entire episode of Kaurav's missive over Pandava is being summarized here. Yudhishthir, who was born without any enemy, that is also called here as Ajat Satru. Ajata means who does not take birth, and also who has no enemy. So Yudhishthir, because he was so religious, he was always on the side of religion, but he was unfairly defeated in gambling. So Srila Prabhupada here mentioned that the Varnashram Dharma, so who is a real Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya, and Prabhupada said that a real Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya will not accept employment for his livelihood under any circumstances. And that means he will not work under someone else subordinate. He will be the boss. So it was discussed that how many Kshatriyas, how many Brahmins leads 10 Kshatriyas and all these things. In verse 9, Lord Krishna acts as a messenger on behalf of his transcendental friend Arjuna. Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. So the message of Godhead is always like nectar to the devotees, but it is just opposite to the non-devotees. Prabhupada mentioned that example, sugar candy is always sweet to the healthy man, but it tastes very bitter to the persons suffering from jaundice. When Krishna came as a messenger to ask to return the kingdom of Pandavas, at least 5 villages, Dhritarashtra was invited Vidura for consultation of such important matter. For what to do? Because Vidura was an expert for consultation. So in Prabhupada given about the how Pandit Chanakya was considered the authority of the council, and also discussed in verse 11 what was the consultation is explained in verse 11. So this is the advice given by Vidura to Dhritarashtra by giving the clear picture that you are envying someone who has no enemies, that is Maharaj Yudhishthir. You also committing so much offences to Pandavas, and further you are going to commit offences. So it is advised to return back the legitimate share to the Pandavas. And verse 12, here it is said that the counseling given by Mahatma Vidura was very good, because he wanted to stop the injustice immediately. In verse 13, the very strong advice given by Vidura. Vidura said that you are maintaining the offense personified Duryodhana, and Duryodhana also envious of Lord Krishna. So relieve yourself from the ill fortune. And Prabhupada also mentioned, Prabhupada is giving who is actually a son. A son is called Apatya. one who does not allow his father to fall down, the son cannot protect the father's soul when the father is dead by offering sacrifice to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. If a son is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he is just like blind eyes, a source of trouble. When this good advice is spoken by Vidura in the assembly of Kauravas in verse number 14, that time Duryodhana was also there. So Duryodhana could not hear, he insulted Mahatma Vidura. So the wicked mindedness of Duryodhana is Prabhupada diagnosing here in verse number 14 because of his association with bad character like Sakuni and Karna, who always encouraged Duryodhana for his nefarious acts. And in verse 15, the wicked mindedness of Duryodhana is explained. So Duryodhana became very, very angry upon Mahatma Vidur. So, and also it was discussed that two important advices to Dhritarashtra by Vidura was, first was to return back the legitimate share of the rights of the Pandavas, and second was you are maintaining the offense personified Duryodhana, and Duryodhana also envious of Lord Krishna. So relieve yourself from the ill fortune by kicking out Duryodhana from your kingdom. So Duryodhana accused and abused to Vidura by saying that who asked him to come here, and this son of kept mistress. And in purport, Srila Prabhupada explained how Vidura becomes Dasiputra. Vidura was earlier in Dharmaraj Yamaraj, and due to course of Mandavi Rishi, he became a Dasiputra in next life. So here we see the spiritual principle that if you are in this world, even a faultless person like Vidura could be charged with something abominable and punished. So it is nothing new. We should have to tolerate the same, and it is very good in the way it gives a detachment to this material world. So Vidura leaves the place of Dhritarashtra for good reasons, for spiritual realization. Verse 16, it is very important verse. Here the quality of Vidura is explained. So Vidura was a wise man. Although Duryodhana very heavily chastised and criticized Mahatma Vidura, but Vidura not disturbed by his mind or in his heart because he considered the act of external energy to be supreme. He could see how the illusory energy working. So in purport, Prabhupada mentions a pure devotee of the Lord never perturbed by the acquired position created by the external allergy of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, we also see the 3.27 it is stated, Prakriti kriyamanani gunakarmani sarvasa ahamkara vimratma kartaham iti manyate. So we understanding from this episode that as the Kali progresses, people like Vidura will be less and people like Duryodhana will be more. And if we give them good counsel, then what they will do, they will turn fiercely against you because they are thinking that they are the enjoyer and they want to be the enjoyer of this material world. And why they are thinking so? Because of the false ego, ahankara. So we have to learn actually. A preacher is one who knows not to hurt the person in his false ego, but he is able to convince and win him. We also see from the episode of Narad Muni that Narad Muni is such an expert preacher. However he may be, he like Duryodhana or Karna, even a demonic person also, Narad Muni converted to be a first class devotee. So Vidura could see the effort of both, the effect of external illusionary energy on Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, but in his own situation, he was trying to see the influence of his internal energy upon his life, influence of internal energy of the Supreme Lord upon his life. So, foremost quality of devotees is mentioned here, the renounced temperament. He is always detached in this internal disposition of a devotee. All the sufferings in this material world due to two reasons, two aspects, and one is the ignorance and another was attachment. So the root cause of all suffering is attachment, and because of that attachment, and why we have such attachment? Due to ignorance. So Vidura could see clearly that Duryodhana company and his family is going to suffer miseries, but he will free from miseries because now he's got the opportunity to go and seek the association of the saintly persons. So Vidura in his heart thanking to Lord for creating such situation so that he could be detached, he could leave that place, that comfort, that position he had. And a non-devotee is completely engrossed with asat, like material body, material position. So a non-devotee always suffering with the seven suffering. Three modes of suffering is Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautik, and Adhyatmik. And Janma Mrityu, Jara Vyadhi, Dukha Darshanam, Anudarshanam. Anudarshanam means that realized vision or philosophy. Those who are realized this philosophy, the saintly persons, then one got the opportunity to get association with with them by following the saintly persons and scriptures. Here, Mahatma Vidura got the opportunity to get association with Maitreya Rishi, so he is very satisfied from his heart. The internal disposition and consciousness is revealed that who is a devotee and who is a non-devotee. And non-devotees are completely under the direction of external energy. And Prabhupada in purport mentioned that Vidura was never attached by the royal palace of his brother. He was always ready to leave the place and devote himself completely to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So Vidura got the opportunity by the grace of Duryodhan, and instead of being sorry at the strong words of insult, he thanked him for within, because he gave him the chance to live alone and alone in the holy places and fully engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Lord. And in section 3, verse number 17 to 23, Mahatma Vidura travels to the holy places. In verse 17, this verse speaks about the exit plan of Mahatma Vidura, and Vidura achieved the advantage of pious Kaurav family. So Vidura took shelter of many pilgrimages, which are the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. We are also traveling so many places for pilgrimage. The big and it is the aim should be that the Lord's lotus feet are there, and we are traverses for the getting and receiving the association of the saintly persons. In purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions Vidura was undoubtedly a highly elevated and pious soul. Otherwise, he would not have taken his birth in Kaurav family. We also heard from this in prayers of Kunti Maharani, Janmasarya Sruta Srivi, Edaman Madhakuman, Naiva Harati Avihantum Vahi, Tam Akinchana Gochara. Prabhupada also mentioned that, but such pious possessions are not sufficient for obtaining the grace of the Lord and being engaged in transcendental loving service. Vidura had considered himself a less pious, and therefore he decided to travel to all great places of pilgrimage. Prabhupada mentioned it. And here we also discussed about the who is a pure devotee. Only those who are pure devotees, those who follow the regulative principles of religious life and prescribed in the scriptures. So when God consciousness is developed, one can take advantage of the association of the devotees. So in verse number 1 to 16, Susrusru Satudhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Shan Mahat Seva Vipra Punya Tirtha Nisevanat. So Susrusru, one who is engaged in hearing, and how Susrusru will happen with Ruchi, and how hearing should be done, Shraddha with care and attention. And what is the subject matter should be Vasudeva Katharuchi. So the topics of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So how the Ruchi will come and how there will be Shraddha. Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra. When one is able to associate with the Lord, even during the existence of his life, will be possible when one serves the pure devotees. Unless until one serves the pure devotees who have this Vasudev Katharuchi, and when they will give and why they will give, when we please them and how they will please when we serve them. So, Shan Mahat Seva Vikram, Prabhupada mentioned that first, intelligent people should come and cooperate to serve the devotees of the Lord with all respect. Second, by association of such devotees, one can develop the taste of hearing. And third is by Sushushu Sadhajanas. Then only one can got this Shraddha. So we can liberated by the association of pure devotees of Lord. The pure devotees who have this, when God consciousness is developed, one can take advantage of the association of pure devotees. So then in verse number 18, where he traveled, Vidroji is mentioned, various holy places like Ayodhya, Devaka, Mathura, he traveled Vidro
Dwarka,
traveled,
not Devaka, it is Dwarka.
Dwarka,
Where?
Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Mathura.
Yeah.
Vidura traveled the places of pilgrimage, and places of pilgrimage are very pure. Everything there is pure. Grove, hills, orchards, river, and lake are all pure, sinless because of the form of the Supreme Lord is present there. So the purpose of his travel is to have darshan of Krishna, where he is having the darshan of Archa Vigraha form of the Lord. The authorized Archa Vigraha form is not different from Krishna himself. Prabhupada given the example of authorized post boxes and how he was traveled. When he was traveling the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord Hari. First, he is taking bath in the holy places. Second, he was in the dress of a mendicant. Third, no hair dressing, not having a bed on which he to lie. So we also see in first Canto 6 chapter 26 verse, Gam Paryatana Tushto Manadataspraha. Narad Muni also traversing after the Bhakti Vedantas left his mother passed away. So he was in the search of Lord and he was also moving fearlessly, but with one vision to have the audience of Lord Krishna. So in purport, Prabhupada mentioned that the life of a sincere devotee of the Lord is thus explained in a nutshell by Narad Muni by his personal example. The first and foremost duty of a pilgrimage is to satisfy the Supreme Lord Hari, that is Samsiddhi Haritasanam. In verse 20, thus when he was in the land of Bhartavarsha traveling to all the places of pilgrimage, he visited Pravas Khetra. At that time, Maharaj Yudhishthira was the emperor. He and held the world under military strength and one flag. In verse 21, at the place of pilgrimage at Pravas, it comes to a knowledge that all his relatives had died due to violent passion, just as an entire forest burned due to fire produced by the friction of bamboos. After this, he proceeded west, where the river Saraswati flows. And this is the place where Supreme Lord visited the last, and it is the Prabhas Khetra. While Bidru was in a pilgrimage, the war has completed. Most of the brothers are killed. So in the so he this is the during his pilgrimage he visited 11 sites on the banks of river Saraswati. In verse 23, there were many other temples, various forms of the Supreme Lord, personally of God or Vishnu, established by great sages and demigods. These temples were marked with the chief emblem of the Lord, and they reminded one always the original personality of Godhead, Krishna. In purport, Prabhupada mentioned the purpose of building a very high temple is to give uh, people a chance to see them from a distant place. And the great sages and demigods never established statues of man or demigods, but they established temples of Vishnu for the benefit of common men to raise them to the platform of God consciousness. And in section 4, 24 to verse number 40, Mahatma Vidura meets Uddhava and Vidura asking about the welfare of Krishna, his sons, his queens, and about Pandavas uh, and the lineage of Krishna to Uddhava. Thereafter, he passed through the very wealthy provinces like Surat, Subira, Matsya, and through western India, known as Kurujangala. At last, he reached the bank of Yamuna, where he happened to meet Uddhava, the great devotees of the Lord Krishna. So we see the purpose of the consciousness, and the focus of Mahatma Vidura while he was in pilgrimage. His purpose was only to saturate his heart with the glories of the Lord. So when we see the purpose of travel to go to the pilgrimage. We go to the dham, but how we should travel? Then we should travel as per the footsteps of Mahatma Vidura. And what should be the preparation is very important. And this aspect is we discuss in discuss the eagerness of Vidura. Eagerness is as good as seeing the Lord face to face. So uh, we must have the Hridaya Utkantha, and that Utkantha make the Lord appear. That means the Lord has already appeared if one is really desiring and eager and is attempting to have audience of the Lord. So in verse 25, qualities of Uddhava is mentioned, and Uddhava is Anucharam, constant companion, and Prasantam, very sober and gentle, and Bruhaspati, Prat Tanyam, son or disciple of Bruhaspati, the learned spiritual master of the demigods. Uddhava is the constant companion and the person who renders service to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Vidura embraces Uddhava. Here we see the etiquette of Uddhava. So Vidura, because Vidura was far superior in terms of age, so Vidura, Uddhava, Vidura inquires Uddhava about the welfare of Lord Krishna. From verse number 26, first Vidura inquiring about the welfare of Krishna and Balaram in Mathura. Then here Prabhupada giving one principle that if anyone has pleased the Lord, then he will become happy. So Vidura first inquiring about the Supreme Lord. Then Vidura asking about the Vasudeva's welfare. Then he asking about the welfare of Sona Purukmini Devi Pradyumna. Then welfare about specifically Ugrasena. Then he asking about the welfare of Samba, the son of Jambavati, the daughter of Jambavan. And in verse 31, Vidura asking about the welfare of Yudhana, who is Satyaki. And Vidura in verse number 32, asking about the welfare of Akrura. Then he is asking about the welfare of the mother of Supreme Lord Krishna, Devaki. Then Vidura asking about the welfare of various personality associates of the Lord. And he also inquiring about the well-being of Aniruddha. After inquiring about the welfare of Pradyumna and Aniruddha, Vidura continuing his inquiry about the other sons, other sons of the principal queens of Krishna and Dwaraka, like Hardik, Charudesa, Gada, and the sons of Satyabhama. In a way, he is inquiring about the whole lineage of Lord Sri Krishna. At first, Vidura asking about the business, and now Vidura inquiring about the Pandavas and Maharaj Yudhishthira and Purus. It was discussed in class that the combined strength of both Vijaya, Arjuna, and Achyuta, Krishna, how they are protecting the Sodrobalyam by their Sodarbhyam, by their powerful arms. Dharma is religious principle, and Dharma here is being mentioned for Maharaj Yudhishthira, and from whom they are protecting the path of religion from Duryodhana. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the opulence of Yudhishthira's earthly kingdom surpassed that of the heavenly planets of the Indra, because Lord Krishna, the husband of goddess of fortune, was present there, and Arjuna was also there. Since Lakshmi Devi is already there with Lord Krishna, so the earthly kingdom of Yudhishthira surpassed that of the heavenly planets of Indra. When Duryodhana and his father Dhritarashtra were the kings, there was no respect and honor for religion, and it was irreligion. That is why Krishna wanted to change the regime. People are trying to become Krishna to change the regime. Why? Because they are demonic, and they want that demonic purpose to be resolved. But the purpose of regime change is to reinstate the principles of religion and honor and respect for religion. In verse 37, so Vidura first is inquiring about Maharaj Yudhishthira, then now he's asking about Arjuna. No, first inquiring about Maharaj Yudhishthira and now he's asking about Bhima. Why so? Because he took a terrible vow that he killed all the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. Vidura inquiring whether his anger has been pacified or not. Then Vidura questions about Arjuna and remembering the exchange with Lord Shiva, how he got the Pasupata Astra from Shiva is discussed. Vidura inquired about the great warrior's well-being. Then Vidura discussed about the twin brothers Nakula and Sahadeva, the sons of Madri, who are protected by the Samsa Pratha. Here Prabhupada mentioned the pet devotees of the Supreme Lord to the Pandavas. Vidura inquires about Kunti Devi in verse 140. Here the quality of Kunti Devi is described. Vidura inquiring whether Kunti Devi is still living. Kunti Devi's chastity and sacrifice in living a difficult life solely to protect her children after Pandu's passing. Vidura asked to Uddhava, "O my lord, his Pratha is still living?" This is the inquiry. And why she is living? She lived only for the sake of his fatherless children. Otherwise, it is impossible for her to live without King Pandu. So here the Kunti Maharani is glorified. Why she could survive? Because she was so chaste, and this is the ornament of a woman, is their chastity and their service to the family members. Chastity and duty, this Vedic tradition, a wife's dedication to her family and husband is considered high spiritual. Then in section 5, 41 to 44, Mahatma Vidura laments for Dhritarashtra and explains about Supreme Lord Krishna's appearance for his unalloyed devotee. In verse 41, Vidura sharing his own katha here, Vidura not asking about the welfare of Dhritarashtra, but he is lamenting that how can there be any welfare for my blind brother, because he has already kicked out his best well-wisher, that is myself, out of his kingdom. Why? Because he is accepting the advice of the wicked and irreligious sons, his own sons. Vidura expressed deep concern for his brother Dhritarashtra, lamenting that he was driven out by a brother who chose to follow the corrupt advice of his own sons, ultimately leading to his spiritual downfall. Vidura did not ask about the welfare of his elder brother because there was no chance of his well-being, because this had only one well, that was Vidura. He chose to kick out Vidura. So in a way, he was kicked out of well-being in his life. Only news of his gliding down to hell. So there was only one chance that when Mahatma Vidura is out of his life, he will only be gliding down to hell. In verse 42, here Vidura said he is not astonished of the treatment that he has received from Dhritarashtra and his sons, having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activities of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others. But I know his greatness by his grace, and I am happy in all respects. This is the here we see this is the inner disposition of a devotee, that by his grace I am happy in all respects. Although he was the brother of Dhritarashtra, Vidura was completely different. The asasanga that was there with Dhritarashtra and his son, it could be not influenced to Mahatma Vidura. A person should not be renounced order of life unless he is firmly convinced of being protected by the Lord. This principle is given by Srila Prabhupada here. Avasya Rakhive Krishna Vishwas Palam. Such persons can take renunciation. They already renounced who have this conviction in their heart. So we see in Bhagavad Gita 16, verse 1 to 3, Avham Sattva Samsuddhi. This is the first quality of those who are divine, and anyone who is under the protection of divine nature, who are under spiritual potency, the first quality that is manifest is Abhayam. He is free from fear. Fear means material platform. The spiritual platform, there is no fear. So without the Sattva Samsuddhi, there cannot be Abhayam. So we see the examples of the various personalities who are in Abhayam. We see in first and foremost example is Prahlad Maharaj. He has no fear in his heart. irrespective of whatever Hiranyakasipu did to him. And Srila Haridas Thakur also, because he did not left chanting, although he was dragged and beaten. But Haridas Thakur said, even if my body is cut into many pieces, hundreds of pieces, and even my life here has been taken away, still I will not give up chanting. खंड खंड हे देहाय यदि प्राण तबु आमी बदने छो न छाड़िबे हरि नाम. So devotees have the full conviction in their heart that the Supreme Lord will definitely protect them. So Vidura, the transcendental happiness he experienced cannot be compared. In verse 43, Mahatma Vidura giving his insights of his understanding, although the Supreme Lord is always willing to release suffering and distress of the everyone, but still he did not kill the Kurus. When these Kurus, Dhritarashtra and his sons, commits all sorts of sins, although he saw other kings constantly agitating the earth by their strong military movements, carried out under the direction of the three kinds of false pride: wealth, education, and followers. So many times we also see Lord also says in that Kalosmi Lokakya Krit Prabodham. So I have willingly descended to the earth in my capacity of inexorable time in order to decrease the unwanted population. I shall finish all those who have assembled here except you, the Pandavas. And here one principle is that many times we also see we should not feel that if we commit some mistake or commit some sin, even an offense, we have not received the immediate reaction, but we think we are safe. But actually, it is not. It will never be so. So here, verse number 44, the purpose of Supreme Lord's appearance is being asked here. So the Prabhupada mentioned that the law of karma enacted by the Supreme Lord for the living entities cannot be applicable to him. So very important. We are the conditioned soul, and we have to go according to the law of karma and law of prakriti, and we are under the control of the three modes, but it is not in the case of Supreme Lord. And one who can come to the conclusion of the Lord's transcendence can become a devotee of Lord and can at once be free from all reactions of past. Very important. So the two reasons for Lord's experience is mentioned in this verse by Srila Prabhupada. First purpose of his appearance is his activities are to attract the ordinary man towards the Lord, and but when they will be attracted to the Lord, it is very important thing. So only when they are engaged in devotional service. And second one is the secondary purpose is to annihilate the upstarts or suras. So Mahatma Vidura in verse number 45, Mahatma Vidura appreciating the purpose of Lord's appearance. So the purpose of pilgrimage is in purport. The purpose of pilgrimage is to remember the Lord constantly, and therefore the Lord is known as Tirthakirti. The purpose of going to place of pilgrimage is to get the chance to glorify of the Supreme Lord. In summarize, this so many important principles are there, but two important principles is we always depend on the Lord. True religious principles involves abandoning independent material plans and instead of depending entirely on the Supreme Lord, even in the time of extreme adversity, like Vidura, and no non-enmity. Despite being humiliated and exiled by Dhritarashtra, Vidura remained a well-wisher, demonstrating the behavior of a true Vaishnava who desires the liberation of even his enemies. Thank you, Prabhu.
Go. Where is Dayashil? दयाशील प्रभु अनम्यूट करो भाई।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
आपने पूरा प्रेजेंटेशन ध्यान से सुना?
कुछ सुन नहीं पाए प्रभु जी, थोड़ा सा मैं लेट हो गया आते आते सर लैब से।
क्यों? जब आपको पता है इतना इंपॉर्टेंट प्रेजेंटेशन है, हमने तो 8:30 बजे के बाद चालू किया है।
जी प्रभु।
चलो छोड़ो। ये गलत नॉनसेंस है। मैंने कहा कि आप लोग एक दूसरे के प्रेजेंटेशन को प्लीज इंपॉर्टेंट लिया करो। पुरुषोत्तम, आपने पूरा सुना? आपने सुना?
यस, यस प्रभु जी।
चलो आप पूरा review बताओ
हरे
मुझे। कैसे रिव्यू करना है करो।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु। प्रभु आपका आवाज नहीं आ रहा।
आ रहा है भैया, तुम आँख खोलो तो सही।
तो आपने क्या
अभी
बोला
आ
था?
रहा है, प्रेजेंटेशन रिव्यू
भैया,
करो। रविंद्र मुझे जो प्रेजेंटेशन दिया, अभी आ रहा है आवाज?
यस यस प्रभु।
मैं ये पूछ रहा हूँ, आप कह रहा हूँ कि
कृष्णा
आप
प्रभु।
प्रेजेंटेशन जो रविंद्र प्रभु ने दिया है उनका प्रेजेंटेशन रिव्यू करिए।
यस।
किन पॉइंट्स में हमने
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
हाँ।
थैंक यू प्रभु। प्रभु ने बहुत ही शॉर्ट समय में सारे वर्सेस को लगभग कवर किया, और बहुत अच्छी तरीके से जो महात्मा विदुर का संवाद था वो सुनाया। और स्पेशली इसमें प्रभु जी ने जो जो स्ट्राइकिंग पॉइंट्स थे वो बताए कि जैसे स्पीकर और हियर कैसा होना चाहिए। और विदुर इज लाइक अमल आत्मा, प्योर डिवोटी। और इसके बाद प्रभु ने बताया जो सेकंड सेक्शन में कि जो मटेरियल अटैचमेंट्स हैं वो कैसे हमें प्रोसेस करते हैं, ब्लाइंड और डेफ लाइक धृतराष्ट्र। एंड उसके बाद प्रभु ने अच्छे से बताया कि बैड एसोसिएशन कैसे हमें अफेक्ट करता है, लाइक दुर्योधना वाज इन द बैड एसोसिएशन ऑफ शकुनी एंड करना। तो उसने महात्मा विदुर को कैसे इंसल्ट किया। एंड इसके बाद क्वालिटी ऑफ विदुर जो मेंशन थी वो अच्छे से प्रभु ने एक्सप्लेन करी। और उसके बाद कुछ प्रभु ने बताया था कि थर्ड सेक्शन में कि जो हमारे सफरिंग का रूट कॉज, व्हाट इज द रूट कॉज ऑफ आवर सफरिंग, इट्स अटैचमेंट्स। एंड देन पर्पज ऑफ पिलग्रिमेज, महात्मा विदुर ने जो चूज किया पिलग्रिमेज, तो उसका पर्पज क्या था कि हमेशा हम कॉन्स्टेंटली वी कैन रिमेम्बर द लॉर्ड। एंड overall presentation was very nice Prabhu, and Prabhu tried in to cover a lot of things. Actually, it was little fast, so I was not able to do all the things, but some of things I noted.
Any scope of improvement? Anything he left, he did not cover?